After 20 years of building together through dust, deadlines, and damn good ideas, Pace and Adam invite you to join them for honest conversations about the home building world. Welcome to Build Connected, where experience meets insight, powered by Diamond Home Restoration.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Build Connected. I am Adam.
And I'm Pace.
And we're back at it. This is the new me, Pace. I don't know. What do you think? You can only take
I
your
like
wife
this.
telling you you're ugly so many times, and then you got to make a change. But
Yeah, I like it. Clean shaven, professional, high and tight up there with the hair. Real nice. I like that.
It's always fun to meet somebody for the first time with the beard and the long hair and then cut it off and then they don't recognize you. It's good
Yeah.
fun. That's
I mean, you shaved off 15 years, literally,
Oh,
just
yeah.
like that.
No doubt. All right.
Nice.
Well, enough about my facial hair and long hair. Let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah.
So on this episode, we're going to talk about a product that's near and dear to our heart because it's something we use on every single job, and that is site protection. And look, as a contractor, we learn from our mistakes, right? I mean, that's just how it goes. And sometimes you gotta make some mistakes to make things better than the next go around. And we've definitely had projects where maybe something didn't get quite protected the way we wanted it. And either we've had to repair it or replace it. And, these are things that we think about before every project and while the projects are ongoing. And, for us, we've had our crew. We have 4 guys that are full time with us, and they've been with us since we started our company in 2008. And it's nice to have people that know how we operate, how we like to keep a clean job site, and how we like to keep things protected. So not only is it something, we're thinking about, but our guys are constantly thinking about it and treating our projects like they're their own house. So, floor protection, very important, right? We've got brand new finished floors and we've got different trades walking around throughout the house. We need to protect those floors from the obvious nails that fall on the floor. Those electricians, they're inherent for making a mess, not cleaning up. We find ourselves cleaning up after those guys. You ever seen an electrician with a broom, Pace?
Never.
We love you, electricians, and our electrician subs. It's kind of the ongoing joke in the trades. But there's different methods to go about protecting floors, and for us, it's kind of a multi-pronged approach where we put down some paper first, and then on top of that paper, we either use thermoply, which is like a high density kind of cardboard product. And another company that's been out for quite some time is called Ramboard. Ramboard you can buy in big rolls, whereas the thermoply comes in 4x8 sheets. I think the thermoply can withstand the drop of a hammer a little bit more than, say, the Ramboard, which is also a high density cardboard product that's just a little bit thinner than your thermoply. They make all sorts of products. Another product they have which protects the jambs of the doors, so when you're carrying stuff through the house, you're not dinging the jambs. What's the name of that product? It's pretty funny. Remember the name?
Ram
Ram
Jam?
Ram Jam. Yes, Ram Jam. Anyway, carpet protection, the projects that we are on that have carpet, we need to think about that. Anytime that there's glass where we're working near glass, we like to cover that with thermoply. I mean, it just goes on and on, right? You really got to be conscientious, and especially when you get into the finished stage of things, your kitchen cabinets, you got brand new cabinets. You don't want guys rubbing up against and brushing the cabinet panels and scratching those. So it's important to wrap those with thermoply as well. And, there's line items on our estimate, and some people ask us, why is your site prep and cleanup line, why is that so high? It's really, for us, it's kind of the most important line item on our estimate. And I think we've probably touched on this on previous episodes. But, our guys spend time every single day. We stop work 30 to 45 minutes before they check out of the job site to go home, and they spend that time just cleaning. And the day starts with them making sure that the site protection is all intact. So many times things get ripped, the cardboard gets damaged, and we don't want to keep treading over that. Look, we've all been there, right? Where you see a rip or a tear in that cardboard, and it just kind of goes to the wayside. But our guys are trained to really spot these things and spend time going through the house and making sure that we're protecting things. I mean, I'll tell you one story where it kind of bit us in the butt. We were doing some railing work outside of a project. We had pretty much wrapped up the whole job. We had to make an adjustment to one of the metal rails, and our welder that came out to do the work, he puts his own site protection down and puts drop cloths and wherever, but he was using a grinder, and the sparks from the grinder, he didn't know it, but they were shooting so far behind him, they were hitting the glass window. It was a brand new Marvin window, and it ended up destroying the glass. Those hot sparks created little divots everywhere on this piece of glass. And I mean, he's been with us for a long time, and he thinks about this stuff like we do, but you really gotta overthink this stuff sometimes. And to make a long story short, we ended up having to replace that window, and he did take care of that for us. But these things, if you're not paying attention, you're not doing a good job with your site protection, it can really cost in the end. I mean, another big thing that we really focus on are door thresholds, right? Those always seem to get marred up, those exterior doors. And we used to tape the heck out of those thresholds, and sometimes when you go to peel that tape up, you have that sticky residue, which is a real nightmare to get off. So, you know, things like that really we need to be paying attention to.
This is a great demonstration of how you can tell you've been in the industry a really long time. I remember the introduction of Ramboard. I remember what life was like before that. Like, I remember, putting paper down. I remember recycling a lot of cardboard, right? Over the past 25 years, there's been a lot of products, real specialty products that have helped our site protection game. That it runs the gamut from tapes to roll products like you mentioned with Ramboard, as well as like the Ram Jam and really specific things like tread protectors, right? Like it really speeds up how we do our site protection. And it's an industry like in itself. Yeah, it's made life easier. It's made us a lot better able to protect the work that we do. And that to me shows respect for the home and respect for the homeowners.
Yeah, and it's an art form too, right? I mean, when we do things like protect the floor, you can't just put paper down and take duct tape and stick it to the brand new floors, right? Otherwise, you peel the finish off. And I'm saying this because we've done it, right? Not duct tape, but we've put blue tape. We all kind of know that there's different kinds of blue tape that have different adhesion, but we've used blue tape from paper to hardwood floor. And if it's a brand new finished floor, where meaning it's not a pre-finished floor, you can take the finish off with that tape. So you really have to find the correct tape that where that adhesion factor is just enough to keep the paper down. And then when you put your ram board on top of that, we duct tape that to the paper, right? So, there's all these little details that you really have to think through, so that not only are you protecting the surfaces, but you're not creating a problem later when you pull this site protection off. But, in
That's
any case,
I mean, that's an area to my point. 25 years ago, you go in a tape aisle, you might see 3 tapes. You go in a tape aisle now, you need a PhD in tape
yeah,
just to
that's
figure out like what the adhesion level is. There's a lot of tape in our lumber suppliers. That was a lot about site protection. Well done. I'm gonna talk about something today. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's getting ready to start a remodel, different state, not here near us. But he was talking about the process of finding a contractor. And, I wanted to talk about it because last week, Adam, you sort of ended our talk with how important it was to select your contractor early and get them involved early with pricing. And so this conversation is kind of about how you select that contractor. My friend said to me, They had interviewed a number of people. They've actually selected their contractor, but they asked the question, "Have you done a change order on previous projects?" And if the answer to that question was yes, then they were out of the running. And I was trying to explain how off base that thinking was. And I know we've talked about change orders many times on the program. I think there's a misunderstanding of what really a change order is in our case, right? I know that there are bad guys out there. There are bad guys that get in the door with a low price and then they introduce change orders to something that was expected all along the way just to cover their costs. So they get in the door early with a low number and they do change orders, which are, I'm going to use the word illegal, right? Because if you have a contract, you've agreed to a scope of work. So a change order for something that you've already agreed to is, in our area, illegal. Um, and that's how they recoup costs, oftentimes. But for us, a change order is something that develops when the scope of work changes. And that happens in one of two ways, right? It happens with the discovery of something that was unknown to everybody involved in the project, or it happens when there's a design change. It's really two simple things. And you and I think that I'm right here. And I want to exclude very one dimensional projects. Like, let's say we had a previous owner that said, "Can you come in and change this door?" It was a very straightforward project. A larger remodel, you and I have never done one of those projects without a change order. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, 100%. It's funny listening you tell this story, because whomever your friends are that were talking to a contractor, it's either one of two things, right? Either that contractor that said they didn't have a change order, they're either lying, or it's their first project.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, it's every job, right? I mean, we always talk about people always say, "Well, what can we expect for a change order?" And the number one thing, let's say it all together on the count of three. Actually, let's not. Here, you write it down and I'll write it down. This is a fun game.
I don't
What's
have a pen.
Oh, come on.
We'll say it at
I
the same time.
wait, wait, you say it as I hold it up, right? Wait, you say it. Say it.
I'm going to hold up a letter.
We
Yeah.
did it.
E.
E for
E
okay.
for electrical.
And why is that? Why is that always a change order somewhere along the lines of a kind of a decent sized project?
Well, I think it comes down to people can't envision the space until it takes shape. Once you can freely move through the new space, if you're moving walls around and stuff, you can start to feel what's natural for a light switch. Or do I want a floor lamp next to this couch? Or do I need a new ceiling fixture here to light this area? Right? Once the space takes shape, you can really see the vision take shape and how you're going to use it. And that's when it happens.
Yeah, I mean, people are always wanting to add switches, right? I think that's a big one, right? You walk into a room once all the rough electrical and everything's roughed in, and you really start to feel the room layout, and you're like, I really could use a switch here, and that happens many times on a single project. So it's a good example of a trade that generally always has a change order involved.
Yeah. So the message here is really change orders are not the enemy, right? And they shouldn't be a part of like ruling a contractor out of the conversation. Like your selection process, as you're looking for a contractor, it really should come down to people that you feel are honest, that you feel are transparent, that you would spend time with because you're going to be spending a lot of time. There's a lot of meetings, there's a lot of interaction. So, I mean, it's much like I don't know, finding a friend, right? It needs to be a person that you like. Obviously, there's a work of experience there that's at the backdrop of all this, right? We say it over and over again, communication. Like your contractor has to be someone who can deliver information that you can understand. You can ask questions. You can see that they listen to you. They understand your priorities, right? And this applies with your designer too. That communication part tied together with a body of experience, I think is how you make your decision. Have you done a change order? That should not be a qualification for your contractor. That is just, to me, a complete lack of understanding of what a project is.
Yeah. Interesting, good topic, Pace. I'm sure that everybody got something out of that because it's interesting, right? When people are hiring contractors, people have different needs, requirements, questions. And to tell you the truth, that's definitely a new one for me in terms of the question that was asked and ruling out a contractor because of that question. I mean, sure, that question is it's an important one, and it's something that that should be a topic of discussion with whom you're hiring. But man, for somebody to completely omit that contractor just because they've done a change order in the past, that it's just about teaching people and helping people better understand things, I think. And that's what we're here to try and do.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we'll keep you updated on if the project goes south, right? So stay tuned on that one. All right, Adam, what were you going to talk about today? You were going to talk something about something you did yesterday.
Yeah, this is a good one. I mean, look, you and I as contractors, we've developed relationships with architects, engineers, and real estate agents, and we get a lot of calls from a couple of different real estate agents in our area. And those calls are usually for a couple of different things. Either it's they're selling the house, and maybe there's an issue with the house, and they kind of want to get a sense of what it would cost to do the repair, so that they can present that with the sale of the house. Or more times than not, it's a real estate agent that has a client of theirs that's looking to purchase a house, and they really want to do a walkthrough with a contractor to help give them a sense of cost on the things that they want to do in that house. And this is like, as a homeowner, this would be really important to me if I didn't know anything about construction. I mean, there's a couple things that happen when you purchase a house, right? One is generally there's a home inspection that must take place, and the goal of that home inspector is to provide as much information about things that they see where there's issues with the home. And I think it does a couple of things for the homeowner, right? One, it gives them a sense of how bad things might be and how expensive it would be to do those repairs. So maybe they can ask for some money back on the purchase of the house. But yesterday's meeting was that scenario. The intent was for the possible new homeowner to get a sense of cost on all of the remodeling they want to do. This particular house was kind of in disarray. I think nobody's lived in the house for something like 20 years. Old nasty carpets and wallpaper peeling off the wall, and everything kind of needed to be spruced up. And the homeowner had some hopes and dreams of kind of a large remodel in that house, but there's two numbers that they had in mind. One was like the no go, like this doesn't make sense for me if I go over this threshold, and the other was within their wheelhouse. So um, we did a walkthrough, and it's tough as a contractor, right? Because people want to know the number. And as a contractor, Pace and I always we kind of joke about it, but we can generally put a range to something. And everybody knows there's no plans and nothing in place to really go off of but our experience, and that's why we get called in. And so that's what took place. And I always love doing that because I love seeing these old houses and seeing the potential of what can be done. And we look at a number of things when we go through these projects. And I think we don't get into the minutia, right? Every time a building inspector comes on site, they're calling out every little tiny thing as well as the big thing. So we kind of skip over the things like, oh, there's a junction box without a cover plate. These are the kind of things that are easy for us to fix in the field when and if we get hired to do the project. But we're looking for cracked foundations. We're looking for foundations that are deflecting, large things like that, and then tying that into the hopes and dreams of the homeowner with the aesthetics of the interior of the space. So I think as a homeowner, you really want answers to your questions, and it comes down to what we said in your talk about having trust and faith in somebody that you can bring on board, because ultimately you might want them to do the work. So I don't know, anything you want to share on that topic, Pace?
you used the word building inspector there at the end instead of home inspector. So
Thank you.
let's
Sorry.
just differentiate. A home inspector is kind of someone who has a certificate, right? Usually from the internet or maybe a course versus your local jurisdiction building inspector. So it's typically a home inspector who's doing that work you're talking about. But yeah, this is something we've done. I think every contractor does this with friends, right? Walking through that home and just, um, you know, uh, putting numbers to dreams, I think is the way you and I like to talk about it. I love doing it too. I mean, I think you and I both love going into homes and, we're always looking for like spec home projects. So seeing the potential in a house, I think is something that we have an eye for and we love doing. And I have to say, like, I don't know if there's a month that's gone by since you and I have worked together that we haven't done one.
Yeah, yeah, it's we seem to always get a call on a monthly basis for these kind of things.
Yeah. So yeah, I love that topic. It's just kind of like a side thing that we do.
Well, I feel like I've talked a lot on this episode, Pace. So let's wrap this up. Thanks everybody for joining us. And next week we'll be back with a special guest. I think this is going to be an interesting topic that kind of touches on the real estate kind of talk we had now, and it'll be a good segue into that. So until next week, I'm Adam.
And on pace.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us on Build Connected. For more stories, insights, and ideas, visit diamondhomerestoration.com or find us on Instagram and LinkedIn. We'll be back next week. We hope you will too.